everyone, a very good afternoon. You're with Lunchtime News. I'm Lasmia for News First. Before we take a look at your headlines, wishing all our female viewers a bold and brave International Women's Day. Starting off with your headlines, President Sirisena meets his Indonesian counterpart, Joko Widodo. The world marks International Women's Day. Indian Coast Guard arrests 10 Sri Lankan fishermen and 2 fishing vessels. 19 firearms and a stock of marijuana seized in a police raid in Galivilla. President Maithripala Sirisena, who is currently in Indonesia on an official visit, is set to hold several bilateral discussions today. The president has already commenced a bilateral discussion with Indonesian President Joko Widodo, where the two leaders are set to sign several bilateral agreements between the two nations. The Indian Coast Guard has arrested 10 Sri Lankan fishermen along with 2 vessels over charges of fishing in the Indian territorial waters. Deputy Director of the Fisheries Department, Lal De Silva, said the fishermen were arrested last evening in the Northern Sea area of Point Pedro. He said that 5 fishermen had been on board each vessel, which belonged to fishermen from Mathura and Trincomalee, adding that the vessels had set off for sail from Trincomalee on the 3rd of March. Meanwhile, Indian media reported that a 22-year-old fisherman was shot dead near the Kachithiu island on the 6th of this month. The report adds that another fisherman was injured in the shooting. However, the Sri Lanka Navy categorically denied yesterday the claims that its personnel opened fire at Indian fishermen. Issuing a press release, the Navy says that it never resorts to the use of small boats for patrols in the northern seas. The press release further notes that the Sri Lanka Navy has taken steps to conduct a thorough investigation in order to ascertain the authenticity of these claims. 19 firearms along with a stock of marijuana has been seized in a raid carried out by the Megavala police. Police said the firearms and the stock of marijuana were discovered from a field in close proximity to the Pallekali Reserve in Rasvaheda, Galivilla. Amongst the seized items are 2 Bo 12 guns, 2 medicinal guns, 15 rifles, 9 large-scale marijuana plants, as well as several deer skins. The police added that a resident of South Siambalangamore was arrested along with the seizure and is due to be produced before the Galgamore magistrate today. Now in more local news, a youth who went to bathe in the Vermadivala lake in Badulla has drowned. The victim is a 19-year-old resident of the Ihalabamba Villa area in Galivilla. Our correspondent said the victim has gone to bathe in the lake with 3 of his friends. The body of the victim was brought to shore with the assistance of the fishermen in the area. The fishermen said the youth was pronounced dead upon admission to the hospital. The body of the deceased is currently lying at the Galivilla Regional Hospital. The 8th of March celebrates International Women's Day. Be bold for change is the chosen theme for this year's celebrations. Up next is a report compiled by News First in line with International Women's Day.
In the face of International Women's Day this year, the United Nations celebrates the role of women under the theme Women in the Changing World of Work, which focuses on women's economic empowerment. In line with the International Women's Day, United Nations Women unpacks the key issues for women in the changing world of work, from equal pay and women's unpaid work to decent work. The world needs to expedite the process of empowering women, whose work has already driven many of the global gains in recent decades. Realizing women's economic empowerment requires transformative change so that prosperity is equitably shared and no one is left behind. The international community has made this commitment in the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. Every woman should enjoy her right to decent work. Through this year's theme, the UN intends to inspire women to take bold decisions that will determine change for a better tomorrow for all women. In this backdrop, News First had the good fortune of speaking to one of the leading entrepreneurs in the country who had made a mark in the world of business. She tells her story of boldness and courage.
16 years ago, I went to work in Singapore as a domestic worker. Today, I'm back home, running my own e-commerce business as well, a non-profit organization where we support other women to start their own micro-businesses. So, as we celebrate the Women's Day today, I would like to encourage all the women to be bold and to continue their education, to follow their dreams. I wish you all very happy Women's Day. And be bold and courageous.
Meanwhile, President Maithripala Sirisena has released a message in line with the International Women's Day celebrations.
In his message, President Maithripala Sirisena says Sri Lanka recognizes motherhood as precious, adding, however, that recognition does not provide sufficient protection to the entire feminine community. The message also states that the government, in its endeavour to achieve sustainable development, has to implement pragmatic programs to ensure the identity and protection of Sri Lankan women, giving them an opportunity to engage in the development process. It further notes that Sri Lankan women are ahead of their male counterparts in literacy and life expectancy, adding that today Sri Lankan women are taking the highest burden of the country's economy. Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe, in a message released for International Women's Day, says that he hopes Sri Lankan women would find the strength to successfully overcome challenges and emerge as a confident stakeholder of Sri Lanka's common future. The message further notes that as a nation, we must be able to set the stage for her to be accepted, acknowledged and recognized within a wider context, adding that it is the obligation of the society and the government to ensure that women in Sri Lanka are able to aspire to the kind of empowerment women all over the world have experienced in modern times.
Moving back to a local story, a function was held at the police headquarters under the patronage of the Inspector General of Police Pooja Jayasundara yesterday.
The event was held to commence the release of clearance reports via the internet. The concept of releasing clearance reports via the internet, which was an idea that was proposed back in 2013, has now become a reality. The concept is to work in tandem with the original means of handing over clearance reports, which include handing such reports to the office located down Olcott Mawatha, as well as posting them. The online facility can be easily accessed through any computer and mobile phone, and the process also allows for card payments for its services.
ඒ සඳහා වන ගාස්තුවද බැංකු කාඩ් පත් වූ ජංගම දුරකථන මගින් ගෙවිය හැකි වෙනවා.
And that's a wrap of lunchtime news for today. For the Newsfirst team, I'm Dasni Athada. Good afternoon.